Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? It's a beautiful day. Nothing but good news. 49ers got an offensive coordinator. Let's see how that's going to play out. That one right there is going to get a little bit of interesting, folks. Welcome to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. We are talking San Francisco 49ers. Have made a shift change. Kyle Shanahan and Kubiak has been named the offensive coordinator. Now, how's all that going to shake out? That's my question, right? And also, well, you fired a defensive coordinator in Sorensen, but you really didn't fire him. You just kind of, I don't know, reallocated him to somewhere. We love you so much. And with Kyle, you know, the thing, folks, I call this, I guess we're out with the Shanahans, right? We're going to be out with the Shanahans, and now we're going to be in with the Kubiaks, right? Gary Kubiak. And, you know, Gary and Mike, they know each other, known each other a long time. But, folks, here's what I think. I really believe Kyle Shanahan's been stripped of the play calling duties, right? He's been stripped of the play calling duties. It's been a lot of struggles that have happened around the 49ers, the way they've been playing. And I think it's kind of run into a road between him, John Lynch, right? I think there's a division, of course. John Lynch played the game, right? He went to Stanford, played for Hall of Fame Tony Dungy. He's played for Jon Gruden. And, you know, I kind of went over the 49ers in a bite, right? Because the history of it, and I wanted to kind of get you to what used to be, or not necessarily what used to be, but you know, you got a Ryan Hensley, and this was a good take, and I want to bring this to where's Jed York in this whole situation, because he's got to eventually, he's going to have to step in, because the 49ers obviously are making changes. There's no doubt about that, right? There's changes that are going to get made.
That's part of it. Okay, let's stick to that part. Why shouldn't you be dismissed or reassigned for the same? Dismissed your...
And take a look what I'm saying here. This is an interview with Jed York, right? And I talked to you about Lowell Kuhn. Okay, and I look at the way the game is, you know, is reported today and the toughness of it. And as I listen, and everybody's doing a great job covering the Niners. There's no doubt about it. But I think the relationship between the media and Kyle Shanahan is so close of a relationship that you really don't get the tough questions. But here was something that Ryan Hensley had, and I said, this is a good one here, because what it did, it showed how Lowell Kuhn, and I told you want to talk about where did the toughness come from? This, for Grant Kuhn, this is it right here. Take a listen to this, folks.
General manager and coach, because they didn't reach certain performance standards.
That's part of it.
Okay, let's stick to that part. Why shouldn't you be dismissed or reassigned for the same reasons?
Look, again, like nothing I'm going to say is going to be
Say
satisfactory.
something.
But nothing I'm going to say is going to be satisfactory. And again, we're going to be judged on what we do and what we accomplish. We haven't accomplished enough. I own this football team. You don't dismiss owners. I'm sorry that that's the facts and that's the case, but that's the fact. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get this right. This isn't about a business and running an operation to make money. We're making sure that we're doing everything that we can to reestablish this culture.
And that right there, folks, that's Jed York, right? So Jed, that's Jed coming in, young owner, right? He's a young owner. And that's Lowell Kuhn drilling it down. Well, say something, right? And I heard Grant Kuhn the other night. Really, it was really interesting how he asked him, how would you grade yourself? How would you grade yourself? I mean, you know, and Shanahan could have said, hey, wholeheartedly, I would have fired myself a long time ago, right? Because that's kind of what we're looking at. It's a tough ticket when you have problems or you create problems and you can't fix your own problems, right? I mean, you got to look at that, folks. And that's why I wanted to go some face-to-face time just to kind of go through some things of what I see, the history. I'm a 49er fan. But one of the things I'm going to be objective, right? And I want to do it face to face. You know, I always believe in the media, the picture says 1,000 words, right? It says 1,000 words. Well, here, I mean, you've got you got somebody we hired to call the plays. That's why we hired, is innovativeness. And he doesn't believe that his system has become antiquated. And obviously in the NFL, it's always a progressive league. And the coordinators and everybody, it seems every time the 49ers play, it's getting a little bit more difficult. And it kind of got to the point where I don't know if it was an ultimatum from where it came from. I don't know if it came from Jed. I don't know if it came from John Lynch. And John Lynch knows the drill. Folks, don't be confused. John Lynch, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Okay, one, he played for Mike. Okay, but the other, he saw Jon Gruden come in with the bite, right? You come in with the bite and you take control. But when you create the problems, okay, and this is where I want to break the balance for the 49er fans, because I'm true, okay, but here's where you break the balance, okay? And here's where Kyle, accountability. Everybody's starting to sniff it out. Accountability. You take zero accountability. It's always somebody else's fault. And you should be able to fix your own problems. What do I mean? What am I saying on that? As a head coach, right? As a head coach, you shouldn't be looking to have someone else come in and coach a defense that you want. Okay, that's like saying, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get married, I'm going to marry a wife, but I need somebody to go take her shopping, okay, or go out with her whenever, or do whatever she needs to do, right? But the whole point I'm saying is here, folks, when an NFL coach, Jim Harbaugh, right, and the one thing you can say about Jim Harbaugh left the 49ers over control. But when Jim Harbaugh came to the 49ers, first thing Jim Harbaugh said, we need to be able to have fundamental tackling. We got to tackle better. Right? Because Jim knew both sides of the ball. He knew exactly what the defense is. And if the defense is not working well, and this is the defense you want, then you can give up the play calling duties and then go coach the defense and get it to where you want it to be. That's how Bill Belichick didn't need a defensive coordinator, right? And you go back to Bill Walsh and George Seifert, right? They're going somewhere together. Not as you're outside the family and you want to bring somebody else in who is not a member of the family. And I get it. I mean, Robert Saleh, who wouldn't want Robert Saleh? But I'm going to tell you, this is a different Robert Saleh than when he left. Okay, he's been in a whole lot of pressure, and it's not something you're going to play with anybody's career. And this thing has got to be done only one or two ways, because what defensive coordinator is going to come take a job with the NFL head coach that has a possibility of being fired? Think about that, folks. There's no doubt about it. And the accountability is something that you can't wash away, because it starts with you, and especially with the defensive guys. It's not like a separation on offense. Here's where the D coordinator gets a little bit tricky, and it's surprising. And here's why it's surprising, because you should be able to get on that side of the ball and drill it down. That's the job of an NFL coach, right? You know, you look at that, you look at Mike Shanahan. I mean, Mike could drill both sides of the ball down. These guys who could drill both sides of the ball down, those are guys who win, right? Because you got John Harbaugh over there. He's winning every year because he understands special teams. He's coached that. He understands defense. He's coached that. So when you look at that, and then he goes over the opposite ball, he's coached that too. They don't call other people to fix their problems, right? So this is the second time you called Wilks, and that personality, boy, that one strike me, that personality conflict. And folks, we got face-to-face, but I got to tell you, I mean, you really have to look at the 85 Bears, okay? Because I don't care if you hated Steve Wilks' guts. Was he doing a job in the defensive room? Was the job getting done? You're one game from a Super Bowl, right? And he didn't lose a Super Bowl for you. Okay, so I don't like the guy. Well, Mike Ditka didn't like, okay, he didn't like Buddy Ryan. He really didn't. I mean, it was like, because Buddy stood up to him, right? And I don't know if Steve Wilks stood up, because Steve Wilks was right knocking on a head coaching job, and all of a sudden, the whole replacement is to go out and get Staley from the Chargers, the Rams defensive coordinator, and I'm not going to say 100, but we brought in not even a flea market, but it seemed like a flea market of defensive players okay, and brought them together in 1 year. And I tell you guys, they don't even know what soda drink. Guys in the defensive side of the ball, and this is where I clearly know that I know he doesn't have a heavy hand in defense because they move as a unit. You see guys when you play ball in the NFL, you're gonna see the guy in the meetings. You come to get in the training room. You get to communicate. After that, you get to your meetings and all. But that's a long day, and you might catch a guy walking back in, but you don't spend that much time together. And defensive guys, they roll as a unit. And the 49ers, I will tell you this, that defense they had last year, not this year that just passed, I'm talking about the year before, that was a magnificent defense. The 49ers could have put it all on black, right? A roulette. Red or black, red's offense, black's defense. You could have bet it all on black and had a better result. Okay, and you can't go injuries. You don't want to go to different things because at the end of the day, the men in that locker room have to believe and trust in you. And that's where the frustration started coming out. And that's why I said, okay, well, Shanahan is blaming somebody else, okay, for what he created. These are your problems that you created, right? You got to look at this, folks. Take a moment and just look at, and I want you to walk back with me for just a moment, right? So we try to make a trade with Aaron Rodgers, right? But you spend 3 first-rounders, right, for Aaron Rodgers, right? You wanted Rodgers, they didn't take it, so guess what, right? You gave it up. You gave it over there to Miami, and you know those 3 first-rounders could have took us to the Super Bowl, okay, if you weren't in a hurry and you knew how to fix your own problems, right? So you get to this stage, and you got the best locker room guy. I know he's not. He wasn't very good. Anthony Lynn was the same way with the Jets. But, when I looked at Rex Ryan and they had the meeting, and Woody, they were looking like who they're going to keep, Sometimes you keep guys for others than just talent and others because of just not injury. You keep some of these guys because they're mentors, and they're able to let the guys know we're going to be okay. These guys are like the anchor to the ship, right? It's sometimes they're so good that you need those guys around, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Because on the defensive side of the ball, you have to play together. You can't play as individuals. Yeah, you can go out as a receiver or running back. Yeah, you got 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's individual. As a defense, we don't roll like that. We gave up 300 yards and 5 touchdowns, all of us, together, right? So moving back to it, Kyle Shanahan. Sometimes, Kyle, you got to fix your own problems. Instead of looking for somebody to actually come in and take the team, Kyle Shanahan really should be the one that takes it over and puts a heavy hand on it, because if you don't know how to do it, but you need somebody to come in and do it, you're fixing your own problems. They have me drinking tea. And it's a good herbal tea, and it's really good. And what's going on here is 2025, I think the 49ers have an opportunity. I think Jed York eventually will see what direction he wants the 49ers to go. Robert Saleh interviewed for the 49ers, and, you got to look at that, folks, and say to yourself, at some point, this rope is going to end. Kyle Shanahan, I think he stripped the play calling duties. I think now we have the Kubiaks instead of the Shanahans, which they're hand in hand. It's a feature of a family. Putting Nick Sorsen in the spot to bring him up and demote him. Everything. If you notice something, every time something happens, it's always going to be someone else's fault. There's no accountability. And I think that's going to grow over time. I mean, it may come to a point where the 49ers may need to trade Kyle Shanahan. If somebody's looking for a coach and this thing doesn't work, because I'm telling you, they're at the ends rope. And when I see John Lynch jump in there, right, he jumped in and said, hey, you know what, I'll answer this for Kyle. I mean, normally you don't do that. You don't see that. But Lynch took the mic from Kyle because he really doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want anything to be said derogatory, right? But that's how it went, folks. And this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. I'm going to always tell you we're going to have fun doing it. So just enjoy it. And when it happens, it happens. When it don't, it don't. We're going to bring it to you face to face. Good to see you. And we tell you all things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast.